so hopefully it will come up your end.
Mm-hmm.
Right, I'm going to minimize that, and I'm going to click back onto here, and then I'm just going to go to... Okay, you tell me when you can see...
It's all
Hopefully
coming through lovely.
Lovely. Okay, so we'll make a good start. So, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this next TechnoLive starter session. I hope everybody's keeping well, and I hope everybody's having a good week so far. So this week's session is going to be slightly different to our usual sessions, because joining me today is Jack from TechnoCamp Swansea, who also runs the TechnoLive intermediate session on a Thursday. So welcome, Jack.
Good evening, Dad. Thank you for inviting me on.
Of course, no problem. So we're going to be doing something a little bit different today, like I said, and what we're going to be doing is having a look at some of the really interesting and cool features that we can find in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. So this is something completely different to what we're used to. So we're going to be doing a little bit of a talk through. I'm going to be doing the flying, and Jack is
I'm going to be talking tech because, yeah.
Jack will be doing the tech talk because I, for one, probably won't be able to do the tech talk alongside flying the planes. So,
if only we had a crash counter.
We're hoping not to have too many accidents, but we're going to do our best. So we're going to be doing a little bit of a fly around Swansea this evening, actually. So we're going to hopefully have an opportunity to fly over Swansea University. Jack is going to be navigating, so chief navigator.
Oh dear.
So we'll see how that goes as well. But without further ado, we will make a start, I think. Jack, what do you think?
Do you have the schedule up by any chance?
Oh, I do, absolutely. Let me get the schedule up. So let me just switch over. So this is our schedule for this week. So Jack hosted your Techno Club yesterday, didn't you, Jack?
Yeah, it went quite well. I thought we did a little bit of electronics, talking about accelerometers, that kind of stuff.
Sounds good. So today we are on the flight simulator day. So this is the TechnoLive starter session, which you can see there on Tuesday the 1st. So it is now December, coming up to the run up to Christmas, which is really exciting. And then tomorrow I am hosting my Techno Club. So for any of the viewers out there who are part of the Wednesday Techno Club session, I'm looking forward to seeing you all tomorrow. And then Jack, you're hosting a session on Thursday that talks about HTML.
Yeah, I'm going to do a small little kind of homepage. You know, just something where you can put all your bookmarks and maybe a little bit of search. Just somewhere nice as the first page that you see when you open your browser.
Fantastic. Yeah, HTML is pretty crucial today for, well, it has been for quite some time now, with it being used as the language of building websites. So, you know, very kind of essential in computing today. And then on Friday, if anybody who is joining us from the Friday Techno Club, it'll be, I believe, a continuation of the topic that you've been working on over the last few weeks, which is the Unity projects that you've been working on. So I hope you all have a good session there. So that is our schedule for this week.
I'll just say we are going to be opening up the sign-ups for next term's Techno Club soon. So stay tuned for that.
Absolutely. So hopefully you should, if you are interested in wanting to join our next set of Techno Clubs, as Jack was saying, the sign-up sheets will be coming available soon, so you'll be able to secure your place in that. So keep an eye out on social media, etc. For those. So,
Dan, sorry I keep interrupting. We're working with a little bit of delay here, but do you mind just turning my voice down a tad? I think it's coming through a little bit loud.
Let me turn that down. There we go.
Should be nice now, hopefully.
So if it is still too loud, just let me know, Jack, and I'll adjust Okay, so I'm going to switch back over now to the flight simulator window. Hopefully that will come through without much delay. I will open up the window for the game. I will open up that now. Bear with me. Okay, let's see. Okay, so hopefully you're all able to see this screen, I hope.
Coming through lovely for me.
Perfect.
Where are we starting today?
We are starting from Swansea Airport at the moment. So this is, let me do a little bit of a look around. So this is Swansea Airport, so down in South Wales. And we are in a Cessna 172. So if we have a quick change of the camera, hopefully be able to see this is the plane.
Gosh, you can even... Sorry, this is my first time seeing Flight Simulator close up. You can even see the little cracks and pores in the level seats. That's amazing.
It's fantastic. So much detail. It is incredible how detailed they have been with this particular flight simulator. Lots and lots of data, as we've just discovered prior to starting today's stream. There was a software update which in itself was nearly 10 gigabytes, and that was for one software patch, or a series of patches of sort of small patches that made up around 10 gigabytes. So they've stored a monumental amount of data in this flight simulator, which is of course partly down to one of the reasons, at least, is all of the trees. There are, I can't remember the exact number of trees, but they've basically programmed almost every tree in the world, if I recall, in this game. So very, very impressive levels of detail. So, Jack, would you like us to set off and you can get us going with the navigation?
Yeah, sure. I have no idea what direction you're facing. Oh, it looks like you're going southwest.
Let's have a look at the compass. Yes, so this is
Basically, you want to, I'm going to really show myself up as a complete flight noob. But you want to turn left.
Want to turn left. That sounds good to me. Right, let's get the flaps down, ready to go. Okay, right, let's go. So the parking brake is still on, which was probably a bad start, so let's get that released. There we go. Okay, we're off. Here we go.
It's funny that we're talking about planes today, because I was actually talking about in my Techno Club on Monday about pitch, yaw and roll.
Oh, right. Okay.
Because of course we're doing it accelerometers, so you need to talk about all the different ways of rotating something. So I believe pitch and roll apply to planes as well.
I see. You'll have to forgive the altimeter setting warning there. I have tried to adjust it. Hopefully it fixes itself. But we are off. So after a bit of a shaky takeoff, and I've realised I haven't had clearance from air traffic control, but that's probably for the better because it would be quite loud, I think, coming through. So let's start.
I don't think Swansea Airport even has air traffic control.
Oh, there we are then.
It's so tiny an airport.
So maybe the first thing we should do then, Jack, is should we have a quick look around the airport? Just to kind of show that off a bit, why not? Okay, here we go. Like I said, I am trying to adjust the altimeter. It doesn't seem to want to adjust, so we'll just have to leave that. I know...
Look at all those trees.
It's fantastic. So here's the airport. There it is. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this particular flight simulator uses Bing Maps, I think?
Yeah, so one of the reasons we wanted to talk about Flight Simulator 2020 is it is the most beautiful combination of lots of computer science things. So I want to talk today about photogrammetry, AI, all sorts. And basically, also cloud gaming, because a lot of this is streamed from Microsoft servers.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so Flight Simulator uses Bing Maps. And I don't know about you, Dan, but I don't think anyone in the world even uses Bing.
No, I'm
Bing
pretty
Maps.
sure most people are Google Maps people.
Yeah.
Or
I mean, I do feel sorry for Bing sometimes.
yes, but this particular flight simulator, as we said, does use Bing Maps, so slightly different. But then again, it was built by Microsoft, so that would make sense.
Yeah. So the interesting thing is, it only grabs certain things from Bing Maps, and the
Okay.
rest of it works out on the fly. Little flight pun there, but it it will generate things as and when needed.
Mm.
But I thought I wanted to talk about why we're flying around Swansea today, and to explain that, when we look at Bing Maps is made out of two things. One, it uses data from satellites, and the satellites basically photograph the whole world, and that's all good and fine. But a satellite doesn't know the difference between a building and a road, or a tree and a tower. Yeah, a satellite doesn't know what landmarks are. So, what Bing Maps does is it takes some data from another map called OpenStreetMap. And OpenStreetMap is, it's basically someone made an open source version of something like Bing Maps or Google Maps.
Oh, I see. That is pretty cool.
In fact, I'm going to paste a link in chat to where we're flying over, or at least where I can see from the stream I received from you, Dan.
Yeah, so we're still following the coast at the moment.
Yeah, actually, if you could take a quick detour left into town.
Absolutely.
You see that big tower next to a dock?
Oh yeah, it's a bit ahead for mine, but I can see it yet.
That is Meridian Tower.
Oh, okay.
Which is the only tall building in Swansea.
I was going to say, it looks significantly taller than all the other buildings.
Yeah, actually, I'm not sponsored, but it's got a restaurant at the top. I won't tell you what type of restaurant.
I will
whether it's good or bad.
I will fly around it again.
Yeah, it's a nice. It's quite a tall tower, actually.
I'll do another quick flyby of it, just to kind of show
and
it
it's
off.
just on Swansea Marina, which we've got lots of boats in there. Also, unfortunately, it's not showing up in Flight Simulator, but in real life, they've got the winter fair up already. So there's a massive Ferris wheel around those parts.
Oh, right. I'm not sure. Hopefully when the stream catches up, Jack, you'll be able to see that I'm currently flying over a wind farm as well, actually.
Oh, yeah.
It's quite interesting.
That's the sort of industrial part of Swansea Docks. Swansea's got a really rich history as being a sort of hub for copper mining and copper production.
Oh, I see.
So most of the Wales kind of built up around coal. Swansea built up around copper.
Oh, okay.
So the docks you're flying over now, they're all were built many years ago for copper trade.
Ah, okay. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, I don't know we saw a couple of them, but you saw there were a couple of cars on the road.
Yes.
So, what Flight Simulator has done, and this is the journey of the data, basically, is I talked about OpenStreetMap. But what happened was some lovely volunteer, many years ago, put that road, labelled that road in OpenStreetMap.
Ah, okay.
And you can apply for you can get an account and anyone can contribute to OpenStreetMap.
Okay.
So they drew that road in. Of course, then Bing Maps took that data and uses it for Bing Maps.
Yes.
And then Flight Simulator took that data from Bing Maps. But of course, Bing Maps doesn't have any cars on it.
No.
So all the cars you're seeing are rendered dynamically by an AI that is running on your computer, Dan.
Oh, I see. That's
And
fantastic.
that AI has been trained to say, is this a road? Yes, it's a road. I'm going to animate some cars going along it.
Ah, so that way the computer can figure out what part is a road, and then it will subsequently then apply vehicles to it because it recognises, the artificial intelligence recognises what it is that needs to happen on that specific object.
And if the AI sees a 3-lane road, of course it's going to put more cars in.
Yes.
So yeah, they're tiny. We're quite far away from them, so they're just tiny little pixels on the screen. But it's nice to see them going along.
It is.
I don't know whether you can. I don't want to suggest crashing into it, but
Get a bit low, but get a bit closer.
yeah.
Well, let's see what I can do here.
Good luck.
Yes. So there's a sort of a segment here, maybe. Might work. Hopefully that's
So,
coming through.
I believe. Yeah, we're coming up the River Tower now, on what I can see. I am
Okay.
behind by a couple of seconds.
Yes.
I think you've just you've just passed by Park Towie or Towie, or I'm
Okay.
not very good at the Welsh. And that's got things like Lidl's, Farm Foods, B&M, all those shops.
So for those of you who are local to Swansea, perhaps some of you are spotting your 3D generated houses.
Yeah.
So
So that's another cool thing that the AI is doing. You'll see data from Bing Maps that says, here is a square building, it's got 2 stories, and it's labelled as residential. That means I should probably turn this into a house.
yes. And there are
So
lots...
when it makes a house, it's obviously got stored a texture for the walls and a texture for the roof. And
Yes.
using the floor plan, it will automatically generate, it'll build a house basically right in front of your eyes.
That's what all of these little tiny houses are down here.
Yeah.
So it's not always too accurate, of course, but it will look very... It will be doing its best to mimic the real life
We're coming
property.
on Kilvey Hill now.
Oh, is that what that was? Okay.
Yeah, you've kind of forgotten to put any of the trees in.
Let's go back around.
Does it render the train station at all, I wonder?
We could have a look.
It should be going sort of up the
Yeah,
side
I
of the river.
saw the train tracks, so let's have a look here. Okay, there's the train tracks, or at least on mine. I'll have to do a bit of more of a swoop by to check, so stand by. I will do a quick go around.
Oh yeah, I just got a glimpse of the train tracks.
If there are any more professional flight simulator players watching, you'll have to forgive me for my slightly harsh manoeuvring.
I mean,
Okay.
I'm a complete amateur for this game, so it looks fine to me.
Okay, there's the train's tracks.
Hmm.
Not sure what you'll be seeing on your screen, Jack, but perhaps it will be rendering it in.
Oh yeah. So yeah, obviously that's taking data from. Ooh, that's interesting. I don't think it's managed to put the platforms in for the train station.
No, it didn't seem to have, no.
Because of course, all the game is seeing underneath is it's seeing on Bing Maps a sort of square box, and that box is labelled "There is a building here."
Of course.
It doesn't know that it's a train station, so it doesn't know that it's only a roof.
Absolutely. I'd like to point out as well another very interesting feature is Microsoft Flight Simulator actually uses live weather data. So despite the fact that it is slightly darker now in real life, that is because we've just adjusted the time of day in which we're flying so that it comes through slightly clearer on the stream. However, the weather that you're seeing now is actually an accurate representation of the weather that is currently over Swansea. So right down to the very detail of the clouds. It might not be 100% precise, of course, but the detail even in the clouds is probably somewhat similar to what you would see sort of at this time of day if it was slightly brighter.
You see, I would love to confirm that for you, but looking out the window, all I can see is darkness.
It's darkness,
So-
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, how would you think we would get to Swansea University then, Jack, so we can take a
So
look?
you've already passed Swansea University. There's
right.
2 campuses.
Ah,
But
okay.
if you keep on your heading, that's the right word for flight, isn't it?
I think so.
To the east, there is the Bay campus.
Okay, so there might be a slight delay, so if you tell me...
You're
perhaps
heading
that-
west on my screen at the moment.
Okay, I'm turning to the east, so I'm currently at... well, I'll tell you the exact heading. So I'm currently going... If I just keep going a bit, I'm currently going at around 0... Well, we'll say 100 degrees. And then, is that too far to the east, or...?
I think that should be... it's just come up on my screen. It's the first bit of beach you see after that patch of green.
Ah, okay.
So 102 degrees you're on. That seems to be fine.
Yeah, okay.
If
I'll
you
do that.
pitch down, that that sort of collection of buildings
Just here.
is the Bay campus, which has just been built. Well, just finished being built. And the reason that I wanted to fly over this was, you see those buildings?
I'll do another quick turnaround as well.
I was the one who put the data in for those.
Oh, fantastic.
So, me, just a random person from Wales, has got something that they made in a $60 Microsoft game, which is just outstanding to me.
It is, it's fantastic. Let's
Yeah,
turn
so
around.
the reason why my data is in the game, basically, is for my university dissertation a year or 2 ago. I made a game in Unity where you could cycle around Bay Campus.
Oh, okay.
That's interesting. So there's a building there called the Great Hall. Sorry, this is a little diversion. It just popped up on my screen, so it's fun to talk about. There's a Great Hall there, which looks like a Greek building in real life.
Let's do
It
a
seems
quick turnaround.
that Flight Simulator has decided that it's going to have several different roofs, and they're all going to be pointed roofs.
Let's turn around and have a quick look.
Whereas in real life, it's one big roof.
Oh, I'm seeing it, yeah.
So, Actually, what I'll do, I've got it open in OpenStreetMap. I'll send a link in chat so people can have a look for themselves.
Oh, it's a good idea.
But yeah, this for my dissertation for this game that I made, where you could cycle around the Bay campus of Swansea University, I needed 3D models of the buildings. So rather than sort of build it on my own, I put all the data I could into OpenStreetMap, and I made sure the data was accurate. I actually went out there with a tape measure to make the size of the buildings perfect.
Ah, okay. That's pretty impressive.
But yeah, I put that data into OpenStreetMap, and then I was able to use OpenStreetMap to make my game.
Ah, okay.
Just as Flight Simulator's done, they've used OpenStreetMap through Bing Maps to make a game.
Which is pretty impressive.
Yeah. We've probably already flown past it now, but one of the buildings, which looked to me to be just a sort of green, massive slab, well, I can tell you in real life that's made of bricks, it's not green. That's actually a tower. However, because I put the data in of 7 stories, it thinks the whole building is 7 stories. In fact, only one part of it is 7 stories.
Oh, I see. So it's making the assumption that the whole thing is, as opposed to just the one segment of it. I think I can. Yes, I can see that.
Yeah. And one of the buildings next to that, it's hard to pinpoint which one, but that's the computational foundry.
Ah,
So if
okay.
you ever do computer science at Swansea University, you'll be doing it in that building.
There you go.
So, yeah.
So what's this bigger building that's slightly flatter, that's just behind Swansea University? I'm flying
so
over it now.
Those flat buildings there,
Yeah.
they are, well, at least one of them is Bay Studios.
Okay.
And basically, it used to be where they film lots of TV, but lots of Welsh-only TV.
Ah, okay.
But now it's kind of almost abandoned.
Right.
Actually, the screen's just caught up for me. I'm talking about a flat building that's more to the left than the one you just flew over.
Oh, right. I will cycle back around a little bit.
The Bay Studios is now, it's rented out to a lot of other film studios. So I know that they filmed some CBBC program. I can't tell you which one, but they filmed that in one of the rooms there.
Ah, okay.
And I think they did a big Netflix thing there as well.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
But the other flat building you were flying over was the Amazon distribution warehouse for pretty much the entirety of the UK.
Oh, I see. Oh, I didn't realise that was at Swansea.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. I felt like there was something I was going to mention actually about Flight Simulator. I'm sure a lot of you have probably noticed the level of detail that's on the sea, and the fact as well that you are able to actually see the shadow of the plane as it flies into the sun, or sort of as it's kind of reflected back onto the ground, which is again a level of detail which exceeds what so many flight simulators have done in the past. Microsoft's previous major flight simulator, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jack, but I believe it was in 2006 was when the last one was released. The last sort of major one. There might have been another one since, but
I think it was Flight Simulator X.
That's right, that's the one.
Yeah, I remember trying to run that on my really terrible laptop because it was free at the time, but found I couldn't run it whatsoever.
I used to try and attempt to play it on one of my mum's old Packard Bell all-in-one computers, and
Ooh.
the noise that it used to make as it struggled to um, try and process it was quite something, as I'm sure you can imagine. Ooh.
Certainly.
Okay, now.
Oh, sorry.
No, go on.
I was just going to talk a bit. You mentioned the water and the shadow. The water, if you get, the water, of course, Flight Simulator's only given the data that there is water here.
Absolutely.
So it has to work out manually whether this is a lake, a pond, an ocean, or a swimming pool.
So I'll get a little bit closer to it now. Hang on.
So what it does is it judges based on the sort of size of it, how deep it makes it.
Oh, okay. That's quite interesting.
Yeah. Also, it dynamically adds waves on top.
It does, and that is actually as well as Jack was saying, it's dynamic. It's dynamic, and it's related as well to the weather. So the heavier the weather, the more turbulent the weather, the more windy the weather, the larger the waves will be. And we might be able to actually demonstrate that to you in a second once we take a good look at the water. Let's have a quick look.
As we're coming into the water now, you can see that there's some very sort of soft reflections of the clouds.
Exactly.
In the water. So that's another wonderful thing about the game. It's got some very mild ray tracing. So what it's doing is it breaks up the water into a series of voxels, which is like a 3D pixel.
Ah, okay.
And what it'll do is it sends out... trying to remember which direction round it is. I might be wrong about this, but it sends out a sort of imaginary ray from each voxel to hit a cloud.
Oh,
when
right.
it hits the cloud, it'll say, yes, this cloud is visible. I need to reflect that cloud. So it's doing some very basic ray tracing. It's not high-level ray tracing. But, yeah, that's why the clouds are a little bit... the reflection of the clouds is a little bit pixely and a little bit blocky.
But it's still quite precise in terms of what it's offering. Again, I apologise everybody for the compass heading warning I'm getting now. I am pressing 7 on the keyboard, and unfortunately it is not doing anything.
Trouble is, it's a little too serious a game. Some people just want to mess around.
Exactly.
I remember, this is going back years now because they don't have it anymore, but Google Earth used to be a program that you downloaded.
It was. I'm just in the process of changing the weather actually, Jack, so we can show that difference in the waves, which is why the plane isn't moving, because I've just paused the game, so it's in kind of like a live pause.
You can actually see the waves they're moving there.
So if I do a bit of a custom, so let's go into a bit of a rain scenario. So what a lot of you might notice now is that the waves have started to become a little bit more pronounced in relation to the way in which the weather has changed. And if I take it slightly more extreme, so let's go with a storm. What you'll notice now is that I've got quite a substantial rainfall, and the waves have become much more pronounced as well, which is quite impressive. Now, of course, a lot of you might be wondering, why is the rain kind of hitting the window and looking like it's, how it does when you take off in an ordinary plane? And that is because the game is in live pause. So despite the fact that the plane is stationary, it's still meant to replicate the appearance that it's still flying. But if I was to come out of pause now, which I will briefly do and hope that we don't crash in the process, it will become much more difficult to actually control the plane at the moment because of the substantial turbulence and of the substantial, sort of bad weather, and we'll be flying using basically just the instruments, which is something which pilots are, of course, highly trained to do. In the event of there being a storm, pilots will fly using just the instruments, as well as any kind of visual cues out the window.
Yeah, one of the things that people are saying about this game is it has very impressive weather system.
It does. It's highly impressive in terms of how precise it is, actually, I think is the main thing. It's just so incredibly accurate in terms of the way it replicates things, and you can set some pretty extreme weathers. You can go as far as 100, I believe it goes up to around 150 knot winds, which I think is pretty far into what we would call probably a hurricane.
I think the word for it is terrifying.
Yes, absolutely. It is quite terrifying. Now, is there another Swansea University campus, Jack, that we could potentially get to?
There is. I don't think there's. It's called the Singleton campus.
Okay.
It's more back over in the direction of the airport.
Okay.
Actually, you'll see it coming up on the beach on the left. You kind of have a big sort of empty parkland, and then another sort of collection of buildings, and that's the university.
Oh, right, okay. There we are.
Of course, all this data not stored on your computer.
Nope.
It's streamed from Microsoft servers. So Microsoft have a thing called Microsoft Azure, and it's basically all around the world they have these massive data centers that are cooled by liquid nitrogen, and they're massive and they're just full of computers. And all the data from Flight Simulator is stored on those.
Mm-hmm.
On my screen, you're just flying over the campus now.
Oh, there we go.
All the data is stored on these servers, and it's downloaded to your computer in real time.
It is, which is why it kind of relies on quite a stable broadband connection to make sure, really, that everything is streamed to the highest sort of quality possible. So it does have varying levels, I believe, of stream quality, and there is also an offline mode. But if we were to go into offline mode, for example, we wouldn't have the level of detail that we're seeing now with things like, the level of detail on the trees. We wouldn't be having all of those 3D generated houses. It would be much, much more basic,
it would
much,
just
much
be
more flat.
Land and hills.
It would. So all of these buildings that we're seeing, as Jack was saying, and all of these trees, they are streamed from the Microsoft servers in real time.
I think the offline version comes to around about 100 gigabytes that you have to download and keep on your computer.
Yes, so there is a lot of... it does take a long time to download this game. It takes a significant amount of time, actually. However, it is quite impressive. And this airport, so the Swansea airport, which a lot of you can see now, is actually... It's not the most detailed, so it has got some detail to it, and I'm sure a lot of you can see that there are also some AI planes and AI vehicles surrounding it, but it's not the most detailed. Whereas if we were to go to a more major international airport, there's a substantial amount of detail from all of the buildings, the AI, everything is much more refined. But pretty much every single airport in the world is built into Microsoft's Flight Simulator 2020, meaning that you can go to any location in the entire world, and you can pretty much fly anywhere. So it's a lot of data that you need to have pre-installed, but it's also significantly there's also a significant chunk of it that is downloaded off from Microsoft servers.
That's a bit of a challenge for you, Dan. Can you guess how much data is stored on Microsoft servers for this game?
I don't think I can even begin to fathom a guess with it being so much. I'm going to assume that it is substantially more than anything that we could fit onto any of our desktop PCs.
Oh, yes. Unless you're a millionaire.
Okay.
Because the size of the data on Microsoft servers is 2 petabytes.
So 2 petabytes of data is... is it possible to convert that even into gigabytes or possibly terabytes to make it slightly easier?
So that's... Hang on. Oh, I've got to...
So for context...
I'm trying to remember my Greek.
Yeah, so for context for those of you who don't know, a terabyte is equal to 1,000 gigabytes.
Yeah, so I believe 2 petabytes is equal to 2,000 terabytes.
Okay.
So if each terabyte is 1,000 gigabytes, then 2,000 terabytes must be... Hang on. What's 1,000 times 1,000? I'm getting my calculator up for this. So that's 1 million gigabytes. No, sorry, 2 million gigabytes of data.
So substantially more than anything that any of us would probably ever fit onto our home computers. There.
Hang on, I've got another calculation. I'm just working it out. Yeah, so if you've got 2 million gigabytes, if you think about a DVD movie, your standard 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, let's say Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back.
Okay.
And you've got fairly good quality, just 1080p quality.
Okay.
That is about 2 gigabytes. So if you can imagine 1 million DVDs.
That is a lot of DVDs. That is quite significant. Yeah. So we're going in for a bit of a landing challenge here at Swansea, so you can all witness how this goes, and then we can take a little bit of a quick look at the way that which the AI has been generated on the ground as well, and at slightly more detail. So this could go one of 2 ways. I am very high. This is going to be quite intense.
So how are you controlling this, Dan?
So currently I am controlling it using a Thrustmaster joystick and a Thrustmaster sort of throttle control system. So I've got both of the devices. They're 2 separate devices, and they've got quite a number of buttons on them, which do all of the control various different things. Naturally, not all of the switches are controlled, but a significant portion of them are, and you can sort of map those as well as you please to the game.
Of course, the game, you can still use the keyboard, or you can still use a controller.
Absolutely. So there's been a lot of... I've used some of the mouse today, and I've used elements of the keyboard as well to try and control various things.
Yeah, I thought it might be interesting for anyone who's watching from my techno clubs on Monday, because of course we're doing controllers for our project for this term, and of course flight sticks are an important set of controllers. And
yes.
Yeah, they can be quite complicated.
They can. So
nice landing, by the way.
It wasn't the best, but it got there.
Oh no, wait, my stream's just caught up. I saw that.
Yes, did you see that? Just that last minute blip there. So what we'll do as we're getting towards the end of the runway, we'll taxi off of the runway and we'll go and have a look at some of the ground equipment. So actually, I'll stop here a second. Actually, so what some of you, of course, in real life, this probably wouldn't be allowed, but what the game has even programmed as fine a detail as the sort of cracks in the tarmac on the runway, which is sort of very impressive, and also all of the taxiway lights have even been programmed in, which is a very, very fine level of detail, which, again, most simulators probably don't go into, to sort of go down to that level of granularity. And even the grass as well, as I'm sure a lot of you can see, isn't just grass that you would see kind of, okay, maybe in the field in the distance it is, but surrounding the airports you can see that it's actually much more real life in the way that it looks. If I can get rid of the zoom in, so you can see that it's...
Sorry.
It's very, very finely detailed, isn't it?
Certainly. Just to go off on one, for any of you who are interested in game design, the reason the tarmac looks so spectacular and so detailed, and the reason that the game is so huge to download, is because it's storing 3 pictures for the tarmac, and these are massive pictures. They'll store one for, the look of the tarmac, the texture of the tarmac, but to give it that kind of bumpiness, that kind of grittiness, that looks kind of 3D. It looks like you can almost see the bumps in it. It's also storing something called a bump map.
Yes, so actually, Jack, as you're saying that, if anybody is looking at the display that's in front of me on the screen here, a lot of you might have noticed that it is actually... Oh, I'm speeding. That's probably not a good thing. It is actually... The plane is actually bumping up and down as we're going across the tarmac. And it's also... Microsoft have recorded all of the different sounds that you would hear in the cockpit, and every individual switch, the engine sound... the sound of the rudder as I move the as I twizzle the joystick left and right to move the rudder. Every sound has actually been recorded by the Microsoft team who developed the game, which is again a substantial amount of detail to go into.
Certainly, yeah. It's quite impressive what they've done, actually.
It is.
Still on the topic of anyone who is interested in game design, this is built using Microsoft's own engine. So they haven't used anything like Unity or Unreal, because it would be too hard to get Unity or Unreal Engine to talk to Microsoft servers. So you will find a lot of big developers like to make their own engines.
So as we're kind of taxiing along here, a lot of you might have also be noticing the windsock in the distance, which is accurately blowing in time with the wind speed of the airport. There are also lots of different ground services, so even in the airports like this one, which haven't been as finely put together, because of course if you were to apply every single airport with a high level of detail, it wouldn't be quite so easy to download onto your local computer. So what a lot of the airports are like this one is they're not as finely detailed, but you can still see elements like parked up aircraft. We've got, if I just go a little bit more forward here...
Wait, those are humans?
They are humans.
I didn't know the game had humans.
It does, so let me change the camera angle. So let me demonstrate that. So let's go external. So there are actual humans that push and pull the aircraft for you. They sort of do the tugging. If I was to try and park, I'm not sure if it'll do it since I've not actually requested permission to park, but we'll give it a go. what happens is they guide you in using the I'm not quite sure what they're called, but they're the little glowy things that they use to guide aircraft into parking spaces.
I don't know the name, but
No.
I just like to think
There we
baby
go.
lightsabers.
There we go. So he has actually started. I'm not sure if any of you can see that, but he started waving me in.
Wow.
So if I go in a bit more, you can see that
full of surprises.
it is. So he's guiding me in. He's guiding me in. And then you can see now he's telling me to a bit further and then stop. So now he's told me to stop. If I was to park up the plane, for example, but I was to request a pushback from air traffic control, I'm not sure if this will work. Okay, so it doesn't seem to be giving me the choice to do it, but let me see if I can use the normal keys. Yeah, not quite. Okay, so it's not doing it this time, but there is a way in some airports to actually program the AI humans to push the aircraft back using the aircraft caddy here, which is again a level of detail that is beyond that is, you know, very impressive.
Obviously, they'll have a database of sort of aircraft vehicles that they've all modelled. You know, these will be modelled by humans. These won't be AI generated.
Yes.
And they'll have designed a model for the aircraft caddy. They'll design a model for the catering truck, the fuel tank vehicle thing.
Absolutely.
And you know, the game will just dynamically pull these in and say, "Oh, it's an airport. We'll probably need these."
Absolutely. So if I pop that on there, and I just take it to an external view again, we can take a look at some of those in a bit more detail. So here you can see that sort of parked up, but yeah, the humans are still going, so it's kind of like its own little world, really, in the sense that despite the fact that we are kind of parked up, the world kind of still goes on in a way, which is really quite interesting to think about.
Of course, when you get out of range of them, they'll disappear, because if you were to keep every little bit of detail constantly loaded, that would take up a lot of computer resources.
Yes.
So if it kept everything you know, loaded and rendered, then the further you travelled and explored, the slower your computer would get.
Absolutely.
And the game would start looking very juddery.
The game also actually programs. The game actually also programs real air traffic, live air traffic. So if you were to, for example, fly out of a major airport, like I'm sure maybe some of you have flown out of perhaps Cardiff or flown out of Liverpool or Manchester or something like that, you know, or London airports, the air traffic in the game is actually live. So it means that what you hear isn't, of course, going to be exactly what's being communicated amongst the pilots in real life. However, the air traffic that you hear in the game is actually going to be the equivalent of the air traffic that is taking place in real life. So as you're, let's just say you're going on holiday and you are going in to land at Manchester, and you're on something like an EasyJet flight or something like that. As you're landing in Manchester, if somebody happened to also be landing in Manchester but in the virtual flight simulator world, they would be hearing, or they would be virtually seeing your plane landing in Manchester, which wouldn't be, you know, again, an exact replica or anything like that, but it would certainly be close to what you know, what is going on in real life, which is again very impressive in terms of detail.
We've just got about 5 minutes left. So I don't know if you want to fly anywhere, maybe.
That's what I was just thinking. I'm just on the way to the runway here.
Yeah. One thing we wanted to try and cover in this little session of TechnoLive was we're going to try and look at some bugs and some glitches, because there are hundreds of them in Flight Simulator, and to be honest, that's understandable given that they've mapped the entire planet.
Yes.
So there's bound to be some glitches somewhere, but all of the really popular ones that people have found online, they've all been patched out, unfortunately. So there were a couple. There was one where they made Buckingham Palace in London a block of office, an office building, which was quite fun.
Yes.
Somewhere, I think it was somewhere in Middle Europe, but they managed to set an airport's sort of height to be minus 256. So to get to this airport, you had to fly into a massive hole in the middle of the floor.
I believe I saw a clip of that one online yesterday, actually. It was quite interesting.
Pretty hilarious. There's another one. There's a suburb in Melbourne, Australia. Or Melbourne, is it? I
think
hope
it's
I'm
Melbourne.
not offended on the
Melbourne.
Australians.
Oh dear, I'm being told off. There we go.
So it's just a normal house in a normal suburb, but obviously someone had come along and they wanted to put their house into OpenStreetMap, so they did. However, rather than setting the height of their house to be 2 stories, they made a typo, and they set the height of their house to be 212 stories.
Which is quite something.
That is, I think that's taller than the world's tallest building.
It is.
But you'd be flying around this tiny little, cozy little town, and out of nowhere you just see this impossibly thin skyscraper that reaches miles into the sky. And it's so thin that people have been trying to land on it, and they haven't managed it because it's quite thin.
It's quite interesting because it's sort of sky. I'm sure a lot of you will probably be able to find them online if anybody is interested in looking at how Microsoft have sort of patched out different bugs and things, which is, as we know, an inevitable part of programming, really. As we are developing our programs, it is often that we come across a couple of bugs here and there, and we've just got to work through fixing them, and it's all part of the programming process, patching out different bugs. And Microsoft, very, very large company, as we all know, as we've seen, also have programming bugs, and they work through fixing them just as what we would do. So it is a very normal part of the computer programming process.
Even to the point that if you write a program and it works first time, that probably means you've done something wrong.
Absolutely.
Because bugs, you're meant to have bugs, really.
You are.
Well, it's good to not have bugs, but if you do have a bug or a glitch, then it shows that you're thinking properly about what we're all programming.
Absolutely. So what I'll do is I will pop this on pause. There we are. So we'll go back into the pause since we are coming up to the 1:30 now, and I'll quickly flick back over as well to our weekly timetable, just to give a bit of a reminder, just as we're wrapping things up. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining in today. I hope that you've enjoyed this slightly different TechnoLive session. I know I've certainly enjoyed taking part, and thank you very much to Jack for offering to help out today. It's very much appreciated.
No worries. If you can put up with my voice and you want to learn HTML, you can pop along to the Thursday live stream. This is Thursday this week, at 4:30, and we'll be doing some website stuff.
So that should be, so anybody who is interested and would like to take part in Jack's TechnoLive session, it will be on YouTube on the same page as this one. And then again, remember, for those who are in my Wednesday Techno Club, I look forward to hopefully seeing you tomorrow. But on that note, I think we shall wrap up today's stream. So once again, thank you very much, everybody, and we will see you, or at least I will see you, either tomorrow or next week. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, and yeah, enjoy your evening, everyone.
Yes.